And good morning. We are back here at 7:07 a.m. And as promised, in the studio with us this morning is the superintendent of Lubbock Public Schools, Dr. Kathy Rollo. And good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today.
Always glad to have you. Always want information about LISD. So many of people in our audience have children in the school or grandkids. Well, we've got how many weeks under our belt now?
We are in the 9th week of school.
9th week of school. And, of course, the big question is, how are things going?
We've had an excellent start. It's been great. Everything has been smooth. Students are working hard. Everything's going well.
Well, all the students are working hard?
Well,
that's their choice.
That is true.
Well, I've got you there. Well, we do have we do have a lot to talk about. Of course, I think school safety was up there on the very number one thing that's on our minds today.
Absolutely, across the nation, actually. And I started February 1st and knew that we needed to look at our safety and security plans and see what needed to be adjusted. And I thought that will be a great summer project. Let's get the kids out of school, and then we'll pull our team together and work on that. But 2 weeks into the job was February 14th, and that was the day of the Parkland, Florida shooting. And I thought, we cannot wait. We've got to start doing something right now to look at this. So we had some community meetings and shared what was in place, shared what we knew we wanted to add to increase safety and security, and then most of the time in those meetings was spent gathering input on what the community wanted to see in place.
Well, have you made changes yet, or are we in the talking process?
We have made changes. We actually also had a safety audit. We had an outside group who are experts in safety and security in schools come in and look at our facilities through a safety lens. And they came back to us with 900 recommendations, which is a lot. Many of those were more around training and behavioral kinds of things, and so we addressed those immediately. We did a great deal of training over the summer. We trained representatives from every campus, our central office staff, our Lubbock ISD police force. We had some people from the service center come train with us as well. And we trained around a new standard response protocol. And then when the teachers came back on duty, we trained every staff member in the district. And then when the students came back to school, we trained every student on this new standard response protocol. So that's been a big part of what we've done so far. We've also added some police officers to our Lubbock ISD police force. And we've also garnered some or enhanced our relationship with the Lubbock Police Department as well as the DPS. So they actually have a more active engagement in our schools as well.
So you'll have, I understand you'll have LPD kind of stopping by schools.
They do. They stop by regularly.
Just to show a presence.
Yes, and they come and work on their reports. They come and get a cup of coffee just to check on the building. It's been great. We truly appreciate that partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me. I've talked to people who own gas stations and whatnot, and to have a police officer just come by, they give them free coffee, free drinks and whatnot, because just to have them park out front, they see as a great deterrent because people think about it.
Absolutely.
It's just in their minds. So, but also y'all have hired a new safety is it director? Is that the correct?
She is a director.
And,
yes.
And I read that she's a Marine.
She is. She is a former Marine.
That'll work.
Her last job has been, though, serving as the principal at Wheelock Elementary in Lubbock ISD. So she not only has that training from her military experience, but also having walked in the shoes of a principal. And she was a model for developing a culture of safety in her school. So she has a lot of credibility with her principal colleagues, and she's going to be working from more of a proactive stance, whereas our Lubbock ISD police is more of helping take care of issues as they arise.
So what is it exactly that is this a new position?
It is.
And so what is it that they're putting underneath her?
Well, one of the things that she is working on immediately is our threat assessment process. So looking at situations, our students who may be struggling and intervening proactively before things get to a level of being dangerous. So that's one of the things she's working on.
So she works with like the counselors and stuff?
Yes, absolutely. And then pulls in community resources to help students who are struggling. And then she also is going to help our principals with their drills and practices that they're doing around our new standard response protocol so that they can reflect on what worked, what didn't work, how do we need to tweak and get better. She's going to help us monitor to make sure that people are keeping doors locked and all of those things that we've put into place. She's going to be our eyes and ears to help make sure that it's happening, and then help our school leaders process the systems that they have in place to see how they can improve and get better.
Now, you talked about adding more police, LISD police. Are you hardening the buildings any?
Well, we have done some of the things that came back in the recommendations from the audit that we could do immediately, such as, we had some doors that needed some hardware replacements, that kind of thing. But there were many things that we could not do with our current funding. And so that is the impetus for the bond election that's on the ballot on November 6th.
Was there any talk about arming teachers? This is something we hear constantly that other school districts are doing.
Yes. A lot of our rural school districts have already made that decision to do that. We have not made that decision yet, but it is on the table. All things are on the table to discuss.
Well, I mean, if Lubbock did something in that direction, I could be wrong, but I think they would be the largest school district to do something like that. I think
to my knowledge, yes. Mostly
it's been the smaller school districts that have done
Well,
that.
it seems to me like that's a great deterrent. If people know that, if the bad guys know that they could face an armed teacher.
Well, of course, our response time in Lubbock ISD is fast because we have first responders all over this community. But that is not off the table. There are just a lot of policy decisions that would have to be made before we put that in place.
A lot of misinformation about it. For one thing, my understanding is this would be only to teachers who would want to be armed.
Oh, absolutely.
You would not demand that.
We would never demand that a teacher do that. Teachers did not go into teaching with that in mind.
And another thing, they obviously would need to undergo some very specialized training.
Absolutely, as well as...
And be certified.
Absolutely. More than just a concealed handgun license.
Yes. So, there's a lot of people who say, well, you can't, just make teachers carry a gun. Well, I don't think anyone wants to do that. It's only those who would want to do that. And they probably should be paid to do so. Well, that's just a thought.
A lot of policy decisions around that.
Yeah. And so we do want to go into the new bond election, but we're going to go ahead and take a break, and then we'll kind of go into what's in the bond election.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
7:19 a.m., 95.1 FMs, and 7:90 a.m. This is KFYO Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. And returning with our visit this morning with Dr. Kathy Rollo, the superintendent of Lubbock Public Schools.
Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the bond election, but before we do, just want to make everyone realize that you can't be for or against this.
Right.
So this is all factual information. So, if you have a question, you can text it in, but I'm telling you, if it has to do with whether she's for or against it, she's not going to answer it. So, anyway, just wanted to get that before we move forward. But there's a lot of information here. One of the big things, now you were talking about safety. You were talking about the safety plan. A lot of the stuff in the safety plan, Lubbock LISD just did not have the finances to do. And so a lot of that stuff is in this plan. Can you tell us some of the stuff that might that was a part of that plan that is in this bond election?
Yes, absolutely. So safety and security was the impetus for going ahead and moving forward with our Board of Trustees voting to call for the bond election. So around safety and security, the biggest item that was the number one recommendation from our safety audit was to remodel our campuses so that they all have a secure vestibule entrance. Which means that visitors, when they come into the school, are channeled through the front office where their credentials are checked before they have access to the rest of the building where the students and the staff members are. Right now, we have 52 campuses, and 4 of our campuses have that secure vestibule entrance.
52?
We have 52 campuses, and so this bond election package has money set aside around safety and security, and the secure vestibule entrances were the the largest item on there. Also replacing some of our PA systems so that we can call for an emergency response from anywhere in the building. In the Sandy Hook shooting, the principal was the first one shot and killed, and so there was no call for a lockdown. And so, because the only place that could be done was the principal's office. And so having the ability to do that from anywhere in the building from a cell phone would allow us to respond faster in an emergency. Additional cameras, some additional access points and buzz-in systems, those kinds of things to help us with safety and security.
And we don't have like panic buttons or something to get the police officers there?
That's part of it too.
Okay. And another one, I think I remember, but is there going to be like locking mechanisms on the door that are going to be upgraded?
Yes, that's part of the system as well.
Okay.
Another part of the bond election that the committee felt strongly about was having fewer portable buildings. And so 3 of our campuses would have an addition to the building so that we get the kids and staff inside the bricks and mortar. Where we still have portables, it includes some additional fencing and lighting to help with safety.
Well, something else I see we have on the agenda is a new elementary school.
Yes. So when we looked at the projects for the bond election, they fell into 3 categories, and I've already talked about hardening the facilities for safety and security, but efficiencies was also one of the items. And so on our long-range facilities plan was a plan to reduce our footprint to save some efficiencies. And so 3 schools in North Lubbock that serve right around 200 students. The bond election calls for building a new elementary school that would include the safety features that I've already talked about from the ground up rather than retrofitting 3 older buildings, and combining those 3 schools into one brand new school. We did that with the 2010 bond with Miller Elementary and Irvin Elementary.
That has to save you a ton of money.
It saves us about $1 million a year in efficiencies.
Jeez.
Plus saving money and not having to retrofit old buildings.
Right. So you're going to combine those 3 elementary schools into one, hopefully new school.
Yes, a new school.
And you've got air conditioning replacement and repairs, and a lot of roofs that need some repair to the tune of about $28 million.
Yes, and that would save us about $600,000 annually in efficiencies.
Well, and that's something that has to be done. I mean, you got to repair leaky roofs.
Yes, we do.
Well, and I think Monterey High School, is it Monterey, is getting an upgrade on their auditorium?
Yes. In the 2010 bond, we renovated all 4 high school auditoriums, but Monterey's auditorium is different. It has an exterior entrance. It needed more work, and so this is completing that project, phase 2 of the Monterey auditorium, to bring it up to the same standard as the other 3. And then another part of the facilities to support academic programming is an addition of an auditorium and some fine arts classrooms at Talkington School for Young Women Leaders. They are in a remodeled elementary school, and our elementary schools don't have auditoriums and fine arts classrooms designed for fine arts. And so in addition to that school, so that they have that access that the other high school students have.
How many kids go to Talkington right now?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but I think around 500.
Mm-hmm.
And the Byron Martin Center is always close to my heart.
Yes. Yeah. Mine too.
It's a lot of good training for kids who probably do not plan to go to college. How's it going?
It is
and do you have any idea how many kids are attending?
Yes, I can tell you. We actually have over 1,700 students that go through that center every single day. And we've added the program offerings. We've added a plumbing part to the ATC, and we've also added an electrical part. And one of the
well, let me tell you, I have a good friend plumber, Cuppert Masters, dying for plumbers. He says
heard loud and clear. That's a need.
There's not many out there.
And students can graduate.
And they make great money.
Yeah, absolutely. With great training and industry certification, and go right into the workforce. So we're excited about that.
You've added plumbing and electrical?
And electrical will come on board next year.
Wow.
Yes.
That's great.
We're excited.
there's a big need for that training.
And we need teachers to teach in these areas.
And that's probably hard to find.
Let us know if you're interested. Yes, it is.
So if you're teaching in an area like that, are y'all looking for someone that might be like a master plumber, or would y'all need someone with teaching training, like a degree in teaching?
So we do not require a degree in teaching. We have, because we're a district of innovation, that allows us to be able to hire people from the industry to come in and work with students. But we do have a kind of our own internal credentialing process so that we vet them to make sure that they're good at working with kids. And of course, there's always the background checks and things like that.
Yeah.
But so an extension to the ATC is actually on the bond election as well. And this is around agriculture education programming.
We need that.
So it's an
we're right near in the middle of one of
Yes.
the biggest agricultural areas in the country.
Absolutely. And so we've heard loud and clear that there are jobs out there where we need students who are trained in in the field of agriculture and in different kinds of agricultural jobs.
Well, Dr. Rollo, in the minute or so that we have left, is there, we want to turn the mic totally over to you if there's anything that you would like to say that you hadn't covered.
Well, just talking a little bit more about the AgriSTEM complex that is on this agenda as well. It would allow all students in Lubbock ISD to have access to agriculture programming. Right now, students have to go to Coronado or Monterey to participate in that.
Okay. Well, always great to have you out here, and you always have some interesting information. And of course, we have you out here every the first Wednesday of every month. I think.
Yes.
So that's great. We'll be looking forward to you next month.
Well, thank you for having me.
You bet. Heading for a hard break here on KFYO Mornings.